Welcome live for the first time to the Andrew Garrison Show on YouTube, on Spotify. I hope it makes it to both platforms. We're live streaming now on YouTube, which is something that we haven't done before, something that I haven't done before in my life. I'm speaking to you from a bedroom in the state of Indiana with much to discuss today. This episode's going to be a little weird. I'm figuring out this whole live stream situation. Nobody's watching right now live. We'll see if anyone kind of steps in. I've remodeled. I had a YouTube channel called The Early Bird Podcast with Andrew Garrison, and I've remodeled it to obviously the Andrew Garrison Show. So there's a ton of old videos. There's 100 subscribers left over from that channel, and we'll see what happens and if this live stream kind of goes anywhere. So this episode's going to be very weird. It's going to be very short. I'm going to do some college football playoff first round predictions. I'm going to do a little tier list of Big Ten women's basketball as we know it right now. There is conference play. Every team has played one conference game. I believe every team has played one conference game in the Big Ten. They kind of have that teaser early on, and then a month passes before they play the bulk of their Big Ten conference schedule, which will be very fun and interesting to see play out very soon over the holiday break. I believe I know the Indiana Hoosiers play their next Big Ten conference game on December 29th. So we'll see kind of as those games continue what the conference looks like for real. But through non-conference play in one conference game, I think I have a pretty good idea of where these teams stack up. And we'll talk about that. And then I was watching the Chicago Bulls last night, and I want to talk about them because I think I like them. And I think I'm intrigued by this Chicago Bulls roster. They obviously had a very good start to the year, have kind of fallen off since, but the East is wide open, and I think they could be a playoff team. And I'd love to talk about that. So we're going to roll through those three topics right here today. I appreciate you all for listening or watching, especially if you end up watching live to the Andrew Garrison Show. And we'll kind of see what kind of doors this whole live stream setup opens up. I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. I have a very old camera that I used to use and could still use, but the issue is with the previous show that I did, the Early Bird, the issue with the camera was I'm coming to find out that it's not compatible with like modern technology. You can't plug it into a Mac. And I understand obviously how like HDMI and USB converters work. And I've been using those and it doesn't work with this camera. So I would record the video separately from the audio, and then I'd have to line them up in Premiere Pro or iMovie or whatever I'd be using. And sometimes it would be really hard to get them to line up perfectly. So I wanted to try to do the video and the audio together to make the editing process a little bit easier. And so to do that, I'm recording on the MacBook built-in webcam. So maybe looks terrible, maybe looks totally fine. I'll have to go back and look. I can see myself right now, but obviously it looks different when you load it up on YouTube rather than live. So we'll see. If this is something that works, it might be something I do a whole lot more. And if I can figure out how to get this rolling, it could be great. I know a lot of streamers, and I know a lot of like YouTube channels that live stream their videos. They have all the cool overlays on the stream. I found like one of those, basically one of those streaming platforms, those encoders that works for those things. They are wildly expensive. So that's probably not going to be a purchase that I make anytime soon until I have a full-time job, because again, wildly expensive. I think like $35 a week. So we're gonna stick with this for now, and yeah, we'll see where this takes me. And so I'm gonna try this out and see how this whole live stream thing works right here. Let's start with college football playoff first round predictions. Today is Thursday, December 18th. It's 11:40 a.m. at the time of recording this, and the college football playoff is tomorrow, and the day after, that's when the first round of the playoff is, which is kind of crazy. I went through finals week, took my exams, kind of forgot that Christmas and the college football playoff is happening right now, but it is. And so college football playoff games, plenty to talk about. The Indiana Hoosiers, my team, are not in the first round of the college football playoff because they skipped the first round. They got a first round bye. On they will play on January 1st in the Rose Bowl. They will play the winner of Alabama and Oklahoma, who will battle in Norman on Friday night. I believe at 8 o'clock is when that game starts. ESPN, ABC, something along those lines. Lots to be excited about with those two teams. I'll take Oklahoma in that one. They're the home team. I fell in love with Oklahoma's defense very early in the season. When I saw them play Michigan, when I saw them do what they did to Michigan earlier on in the season, that front seven, that defense across the board, I just completely fell in love with that group and just completely enjoyed watching them, right? And so I didn't watch a lot of Oklahoma throughout the rest of the year. Mateer got hurt. They took a couple losses. They seemed kind of irrelevant. I was saying that Oklahoma was my one seed. I was saying they were my SEC champion. After that Michigan game, I overreacted more than most people could possibly overreact about Oklahoma. And I ended up being wrong. But part of that was, of course, because of those injuries. Mateer probably still not at 100%. Very, very sad. But again, this defense is phenomenal. Mateer is very good as well. This roster has a lot of positive traits to it. I think at home, they beat Alabama, which is a team that seems to be trending in the wrong direction at the wrong time. Obviously, had a very difficult loss to Georgia in the SEC championship game. I imagine in a road environment, in a town being Norman, that very much would be excited about a college football playoff game being played, in their backyard against an SEC opponent, one that they hate and one that they've lost to in the playoff in the past before joining the SEC. This is a great revenge moment for Oklahoma. I think they achieved that revenge and advanced to play Indiana in the Rose Bowl at noon on Saturday is arguably the best game of the weekend, which is very sad that that's the game that's at noon on Saturday. But it's Texas A&M and Miami. This game will be played in College Station, Texas, and I'll take Texas A&M again. I think, especially for these SEC home teams, I think the home environment is going to be a big help for Texas A&M. I think it's going to be a help for Oklahoma. I don't trust Miami. I don't trust Carson Beck. I haven't watched very much Miami throughout the season. Again, similar to Oklahoma, they start losing and they kind of fall off the wave. And I fall off the wave watching them. There's just bigger priorities in the college football world, time window to time window, than Miami. Now they're playing Texas A&M. I think at home, this Texas A&M offense is going to put together a couple firework drives, and I think Miami's greatest weakness, at least early in the season, I don't know if it still is, but it certainly seemed like the secondary was a concern for Miami. You see, look at Casey Concepcion and some of the stuff that he's done throughout the year. I think Texas A&M at home gets the win over Miami, and they will advance to play Ohio State, which is a game that many consider to be their national championship game in the middle of the season. That was at the time when Texas A&M was number one in the SEC. Ohio State was number one in the Big Ten. Since then, they've both taken losses. Since then, they've both kind of, fallen off a little bit. And now they have their opportunity to prove themselves against one another and advance to the semifinals. That's what I think is going to happen after Texas A&M beats Miami. And then the other two won't take very long to suggest. Ole Miss over Tulane. Everyone agrees. Oregon over JMU. Everyone agrees. We saw Ole Miss play Tulane earlier in the season. I don't remember the score. I know it was a 3 or 4 score disparity between those two teams. So Ole Miss over Tulane once again. Oregon over James Madison. It's not my fault that these teams are in the playoff, and it won't be my fault if I pick those games correctly. And that's what I have to say about that. It is tricky that on Saturday evening, the two games are the two ones that are probably the most likely to be blowouts. We'll finish up Ole Miss Tulane at 4 o'clock and then roll into Oregon JMU and watch that possible blowout. But maybe it's not. Maybe these games end up being closer. Ole Miss obviously doesn't have Lane Kiffin. Tulane might have something going on. JMU seems confident. Who knows? Each one of these teams will start 0-0, and we'll see how the games play out. And I'll be excited and interested to watch them, but maybe not excited and interested to see them all the way through as the games carry forward. That's what I have on the college football playoff. Again, a quicker show today. I want to just go through and talk about each and every one of the Big Ten women's basketball teams in the Big Ten. I have a kind of a tier list. I kind of have a hierarchy set up right here. I have 4 different categories. I have Big Ten championship contenders, self-explanatory. I have 4 teams in that category. I have tournament teams that I think will be in the NCAA tournament in addition to those conference championship contenders. I have a what's going on here category of teams that I just can't quite figure out. And then I have the rest category for the teams that are going to be at the bottom and continue to lose time and time again as the season continues. I'll start with my championship contender list. No surprise, number 4, Big Ten, number 4 in the country for Big Ten women's, number 4 in the NCAA for women's basketball is UCLA, and they're at the top of the Big Ten for me as the primary championship contender in the conference. Lauren Betts is awesome. I watched her in full for the first time the other day. I've caught bits and pieces of UCLA games throughout the non-conference schedule. But Lauren Betts was awesome. And obviously is someone that's going to go to the WNBA and be awesome there. Lauren Betts is somebody that is going to be awesome in the Big Ten. I am afraid of her as an Indiana fan and someone who covers the Indiana Hoosiers because, again, she's phenomenal in the front court. That's where a lot of Indiana's struggles have been. And yeah, I something about Lauren Betts absolutely scares me as a scorer, as a playmaker, as a rebounder. It's a full throttle offense that has threats everywhere. It's not just Lauren Betts. This entire team, this entire roster is phenomenal. They play great defense. They absolutely blanketed, shut down, and dismantled Cal Poly. Granted, it's Cal Poly. They're 2-7 and a low major. One of the lower, definitely the very lowest threshold of NCAA women's basketball at the D1 level that UCLA possibly could have come across. But nonetheless, this UCLA team's going to be awesome. They're number 4 in the country for a reason. They are probably going to make the Final Four. I shouldn't say probably, but certainly, likely to advance to the second weekend of the tournament and make a deep run and be a national championship contender on top of being a Big Ten conference championship contender, in my opinion. After them, we have number 7, Maryland's. They stole Indiana's Yarden Garzone. That was very sad for me and many other people. But this Maryland team, in part because of Garzone, has a very strong backcourt. They play great transition basketball across the board. I love this Maryland team. They're sharp. They're clutch. They came up late in the fourth quarter and in the first overtime against Minnesota to put together some wild sequences that was partially Minnesota throwing the win away and partially Maryland just being perfect down the stretch in those situations to create a situation where Maryland would be capable of winning that game. And they did. They beat Minnesota in their first conference game, again, in thrilling fashion. Again, sharpness, clutchness under pressure, clutch down the stretch. That was what Maryland was, and they were phenomenal at that. And they did a great job. Michigan is number 6 in the country. Silas Swords is at star status. This is another offense that's great. This is another roster that's phenomenal. Michigan is a team that could be a Final Four contender. There are people smarter than me calling them a Final Four contender, and Silas Swords has a lot to do with that. She'll be in the WNBA one day. Again, just the type of player that she hit a 3 late to cut the deficit to 1 possession against UConn on a neutral court, and led the charge in a comeback against UConn. Silas Swords is awesome, and she's a player that I anticipate being awesome throughout the Big Ten season. And then number 11, Iowa. You look at the Iowa logo in a women's basketball context, and you think about Caitlin Clark. And obviously, she's not there and hasn't been there in a great deal of time. But still, this is a team that's fast. This is a team that's physical, especially down low. They're going to be a tough out. You're going to have to really battle against Iowa. I could see teams getting tired out, getting kind of battered and bruised against Iowa in a way that is difficult to come back against. They're number 11 for a reason. I think Iowa hasn't hit their ceiling yet, and I think this is a team that's going to be capable of elevating and moving past where they even are right now as a group. I could see them beating UC. I could see them beating any one of these teams just with their physicality, just with their style of play. Any of the other teams in this list, I could see Iowa winning against, and that's why I have them as a Big Ten championship contender. Maybe not in the regular season, but in the tournament for sure. This is a team that could win a couple games against some great teams and put together a winning formula. Iowa's number 11 in the country. They're my 4th conference championship contender in the Big Ten. Other tournament teams. Number 23, Nebraska is very, very good. Their men's team is very, very good. Their women's volleyball team was amazing until they lost to Texas A&M in the tournament. But this women's basketball team is very physical on the glass, and they have very nice three-point shooting. So what that means is they shoot a lot of threes, they make a lot of threes, but the threes that they miss, there's a good chance of there being an offensive rebound and an opportunity to score past that miss. And that has a lot to do with Maupin, who's phenomenal down low as a big. Again, someone that's probably going to destroy Indiana in a couple weeks, but we'll have to see how that goes. So nice front court play, really nice three-point shooting for Nebraska. They won the Emerald Coast Classic. They scored 91 against Virginia in the championship game to do so. I love this Nebraska team. I'm excited to watch them moving forward. They're number 23 in the country at the moment for a reason. Illinois is a team that I put in the tournament teams category. They were in the tournament last year. They play fast. They get downhill. They're excellent in transition. They have a very fluid offense. Their 2 best players are forwards, and they have those guards that like to get downhill. They're last in 3 points made, last in 3-point attempts in the Big Ten. At least they were. That might have changed. But for the point being, their offense doesn't really structure itself around 3-point shooting at all, contrary to many other teams in the Big Ten and in the country, especially in 2025. This team has great guard play though, and those guards like to get downhill. And if they can get downhill and produce offensive rebounds and put shots back up, that's what this Illinois offense is built on. It's hard to have great front court defenses that can stop all of that. And that's why I think Illinois is going to be able to contend in many games in the Big Ten Conference. And we'll see how far they can take that. I believe they'll take that at least to an NCAA tournament bid. Number 24, Michigan State, is a tricky one. They are 0-1 in conference. They lost to Wisconsin. They're the best three-point shooting team in the Big Ten. They also have some size down low. They can win in different ways. Temple is Temple, but they beat Temple through the front court and between the blocks to win the Baha Mar Championship in the Bahamas for women's basketball. So great 3-point shooting can take you a very far ways. They also lost to Wisconsin. They didn't shoot very well against Wisconsin. I'm sure there's a correlation there, and I'm sure that's the way to stop Michigan State is that they're not shooting well, and if you can restrict the three, Michigan State's going to lose some games they probably otherwise shouldn't be losing. So that's something to look out for Michigan State. But nonetheless, they're ranked. They're going to be in the tournament. I'm not concerned about them. A team that I'm also not concerned about, but I'm very excited about is Washington. They're number 22 in the country. They're dynamic. They have an awesome offense. They have multiple threats on the ball and off the ball to score in a variety of different ways. This team is kind of off the map because they haven't played very many high profile games. I watched their game against Utah. It was a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to this team in Big Ten Conference play. I'm looking forward to Indiana taking on this team. This is an offense that I think is a ton of fun. They compare very similarly to Minnesota, who is another team that I have on this list. I think Washington's a little bit more exciting and capable than Minnesota. But Minnesota also quick, dynamic offense. They score quickly, they score efficiently, they have plenty of threats to score. I think Washington just has more individual creation and individual ability compared to Minnesota. Minnesota forced double overtime against Maryland and should have won that game twice. There's something there with Minnesota. I really like Minnesota. I like Washington a little bit more. Maybe it's just because they're a little bit different. I haven't been watching Washington my whole life because obviously they're new to the Big Ten. Still, those two are teams that are very similar, that are going to be very fun when they play against each other, and are going to be very fun across the board throughout the season. USC's on this list. They don't have Juju Watkins. They do have Jazzy Davidson. She has stepped up into that role, kind of similarly to Jaylen Brown stepping up in place of Jason Tatum. That's kind of what Jazzy Davidson has done in place of Juju Watkins. She's been very good. She's been very impressive. It's been very exciting to see her throughout the season. USC's number 19 in the country. They're going to be in the tournament. They may make the Sweet 16. They'll be fine. They're not a national championship contender without Juju, but still a very strong roster, still a very strong team. Number 21, Ohio State has a backcourt that I think could go toe to toe with just about anyone in the Big Ten. Just a great backcourt, truly. All three levels of the offense, 3-point shooting in the mid range, getting downhill. This Ohio State group, again, that's how you win in tournament games, right? If you have a great backcourt, you're going to be capable of getting hot at the right time and putting together a fantastic tournament run. And I'm just excited to see how that goes and how that plays out the rest of the way. My what's going on here category has three teams that I am very, very confused by. Oregon, Indiana, and Wisconsin. I've watched obviously every minute of Indiana this season. I've talked ad nauseum about Indiana. Don't need to necessarily rehash that. They have issues in the front court created by injuries. They need more production offensively from their supporting cast. They're probably not going to get it. There's not very much depth on this team. There's not very much bench scoring on this team. It's kind of Shea Chesky and Lene Beaumont, and now in some ways Maya Makaletsky putting together as many points as physically possible while getting destroyed down low on the other end of the floor and not getting very much help from the supporting cast. It's this team without Z, right? Because this team doesn't have very much depth, without Z on the floor, this team is effectively dysfunctional. The roster is dysfunctional. It at least doesn't make sense. It doesn't work together. This team is supposed to be playing with Soka Guman. She's obviously injured. She's week to week. When she returns, the team will be much better. Right now, the team doesn't really make sense, and they're nearly losing games against teams like Eastern Michigan as a result. Oregon is a team I can't figure out because they're 10-1 or something like that. They held Montana State to 14 points in the first half. They destroyed Montana State, and they continuously do that. They destroy teams, inferior opponents, but then they play someone real and they get wrecked. And I'm interested to see as conference play begins what Oregon is. Is this a team that's actually capable of winning games consistently in the Big Ten? Or is this one of those false hopes that we get from them just destroying D2 schools, right? And then when they actually play a conference opponent, they start to falter. All of these teams, I think, are better than they are. Illinois might not be good. Wisconsin, who I'm about to talk about, may not be good. Wisconsin, for example, I haven't watched very much Wisconsin. They beat Michigan State. That game was on in the background for me. It was on a second screen. I was just kind of aware of the score. I'm excited to watch Wisconsin at some point this season. But again, like there is very little clarity on what Wisconsin, what Oregon, and what Indiana are. Are they tournament teams? Are they bad? It's very possible all of these teams are just bad because again, they win a lot of games early in the season because they play inferior opponents. And when they play real conference opponents, that's when we'll find out what they are. I don't know about Oregon, Indiana, and Wisconsin. To be quite frank, I don't know what they are. I don't know what they're capable of, and I'm excited to find out. That's what the season's for. The rest, these are teams I know are going to be bad. Purdue, don't need to say much about them. They just lose. They still fill up the arena, but they lose. Rutgers has a lot of transfers. They're working on the rebuilds. They're not going to be able to keep pace in the Big Ten. I had hope about them early in the season, and then it became clear that they were just simply bad. And I think that's going to be the case throughout the year. Again, lots of transfers. They're working on the rebuild. They're going to struggle to keep pace, and they're going to lose a lot of games as a result. Northwestern is also a few steps behind alongside Penn State. Northwestern nearly lost to IU Indy. Penn State, I haven't watched it all this year. I probably won't for a very long time. They're the very last team IU plays in the regular season schedule. So I'll watch them more when that area of the schedule begins to come up. But for now, Penn State's kind of on the back burner for me. I don't think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to win very many games, and they play Indiana very far in the future. So, not very many reasons for me to pay attention to Penn State. But I'm interested to see if these teams are able to pull off any upsets at any point. That's kind of my Big Ten tier list, my Big Ten tier rankings. That's kind of all I have to say about that. And yeah, well, I'm very interested to see once conference play starts. I'm going to have a million things to say about Big Ten women's basketball, and I'm excited to get to that point for that reason. We'll round out the show with this. Again, very quick show, just kind of testing out what the live stream situation feels like. I think I like the Chicago Bulls. Uh, they're great as a team. They beat the Cavaliers last night. I think 117 to 101, something along those lines, 127 to 110. Both teams were over 100. They're good in transition. They're very good offensively. There is a lot of recency bias to what I'm saying here, but they shot very well last night and they played very well in transition. They moved the ball around very well. Their shot selection was very good. This team is very good. Josh Giddey maybe is a star. I don't think he's quite there yet. He had a triple double last night. He looked great. In theory, this team is going to be capable of in theory, this Chicago Bulls team is going to be capable of winning games and making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. That is, frankly, very wide open. So I'm interested to see what that looks like for Chicago. Again, Josh Giddey. In theory, this team's supposed to be kind of like the Pacers. They play well in transition. They have a lot of players that can score. Josh Giddey could be their Tyrese Halliburton. They don't really have a Pascal Siakam, but they could trade for one. There's kind of that rumor around the Bulls is that's what their goal is. That's what they're striving for. If that is the case, then this could be a team that could make some noise in the playoffs. I can't tell yet, but again, they played great as a team. They shot well. They offensively were fantastic. Very good in transition. Nothing special defensively, but again, they were scoring enough to win. Especially for a team like the Cavaliers that are searching for their identity, it's very hard to figure out. It's very hard for them to beat a team on the road when they're shooting that well, when their offense is that competent. When Josh Giddey has a triple double, the Bulls won the game. It's just a regular season win for the Bulls, but I'm excited to watch them more, and I'm interested to see if there's anything there with Chicago as we move forward throughout the season. Okay, I appreciate you all listening and watching. I'm interested to see how this whole live stream situation goes as we kind of traverse this area of sports media and social media, I suppose. Again, I appreciate you all listening or watching. I will talk to you again at some point later in the week. We'll have a more in-depth show, a little bit more high quality. And again, I appreciate you all watching and listening. I will talk to you again next time.